is a spell I'll never tell. Yeah, I like you, that's for sure. Never have to.
Hi guys, welcome back to Exmo Lex. Today we'll be continuing the series where we examine the LDS Church using the Bite model of authoritarian control, looking at each point individually to help us determine whether or not the LDS Church is a destructive cult. I'll leave more information about the Bite model in the description if you want to know more, as well as a link to a playlist where there are more of these videos. Remember, matching up with one point on the Bite model doesn't necessarily make a group a cult. You have to look at the whole picture. The point we'll be examining today is under behavior control, the B in Bite model. Regulate what and how much you eat and drink. Most people who are at least a little familiar with Mormonism know that Mormons are not supposed to drink alcohol or coffee. However, the rules and rituals actually go a bit further than that, and not following the rules can have dire consequences, according to this religion. So let's get into it. First, we're going to look at Mormonism's word of wisdom. What is it and what does it include? From the church website, the word of wisdom is a law of health revealed by the Lord for our physical and spiritual benefit. In this revelation, which is recorded in section 89 of the Doctrine and Covenants, the Lord tells us which foods are good for us to eat and which substances are not good for our bodies. He promises spiritual and physical blessings for obeying the word of wisdom. Side note, if you're not familiar, the Doctrine and Covenants is considered scripture within the Mormon church, and it was written by the church's founder, Joseph Smith. In the word of wisdom, the Lord commands us not to take the following substances into our bodies: alcoholic drinks, tobacco, tea, and coffee. Latter-day Prophets have taught that the term hot drinks in the Doctrine and Covenants refers to tea and coffee. The Lord declares that the following foods are good for our bodies: vegetables and fruits, which should be used with prudence and thanksgiving; the flesh of beasts and of the fowls of the air, which is to be used sparingly; grains such as wheat, rice, and oats, which are the staff of life. So what is explicitly forbidden? Alcohol, tobacco, tea, and coffee. And what is to be used sparingly? Meat. Now, as somebody who was raised in the church, grew up in it my whole life, was a member till I was 25, I didn't know a single person who ate meat sparingly. I didn't even know any Mormon vegetarians, and everybody that was Mormon that I knew ate meat a lot. Personally, I grew up on a farm, and we ate meat every single day, usually meat that we raised. It is very interesting how this particular guideline pretty much just isn't followed, while all of the other ones are seemingly so important. Nevertheless, the other bits are thought of as extremely important. And a lot of people, even outside of the church, can see why alcohol and tobacco would be seen as negative. But then they'll ask, why coffee and tea though? The church and its members apparently don't really have one great reason for that, but I've heard a lot of people try to explain it. In the word of wisdom, all that is specifically mentioned is hot drinks. Coffee and tea are not specifically mentioned at all. However, the church says that prophets have revealed hot drinks to mean tea and coffee. And supposedly herbal tea is okay while black tea is not. But hot chocolate, although hot, is fine. Soup or broth are fine. A glass of milk warmed up is fine. So then are iced coffee and iced tea okay? No. Tea and coffee are prohibited whether or not they are hot. So temperature is not the issue. So then you wonder, is caffeine the issue? Since herbal tea is okay, but black tea is not? No. Because it's still not okay to drink decaf coffee. And caffeinated sodas and energy drinks are not prohibited. In fact, Utah is absolutely overrun with specialty soda shops. And I know many Mormons who run on energy drinks. A new explanation I've seen from Mormons in recent years is that tea and coffee are bad because they contain tannins, totally ignoring the fact that tannins are found in a multitude of other foods like peas, cranberries, walnuts, grapes. So what is the real reason? The church doesn't provide any real explanation other than we follow inspired counsel from the 1800s for our health. If you ask me, it just comes down to control. Growing up in the church, I heard talks all the time about how we don't necessarily need to understand why God gives us specific commandments. We just need to follow them. We will be blessed if we just do what we're told. So what happens if Mormons don't obey the word of wisdom? How important or serious is it? Well, for starters, it can keep them out of the temple. Temple Recommend interview question number 11. Do you understand and obey the word of wisdom? So how serious is going to the temple? Well, church members believe that being temple worthy is being heaven worthy. So yeah, it's pretty serious. Listen to this story told over the pulpit in the church's general conference. My next story is about a woman I will call Mary. She was the daughter of faithful pioneer parents who had sacrificed much for the gospel. She had been married in the temple and was the mother of 10 children. She was a talented woman who taught her children how to pray, to work hard, and to love each other. She paid her tithing, and the family rode to church together on Sunday in their wagon. Though she knew it was contrary to the word of wisdom, she developed the habit of drinking coffee and kept a coffee pot on the back of her stove. She claimed that the Lord will not keep me out of heaven for a little cup of coffee. But because of that little cup of coffee, she could not qualify for a temple recommend, and neither could those of her children who drank coffee with her. Though she lived to a good old age and did eventually qualify to re-enter and serve in the temple, only one of her 10 children had a worthy temple marriage, and a great number of her posterity, which is now in its 5th generation, live outside of the blessings of the restored gospel she believed in and her forefathers sacrificed so much for. I will leave a link in the description of the video of this person telling the story if you want to watch it. The woman telling the story actually cries about how sad it is that coffee kept this family from being worthy to go to the temple. Now, could a Mormon simply lie about their coffee habit and still enter the temple? Yeah, but according to their scripture, lying to get into the temple basically just makes the covenants you make in the temple null and void. If you want to learn more about that, check out D&C 132:7. So the church has quite a bit of control over what members consume, but what about when and how much they consume? In the LDS church, every first Sunday of the month, all members fast. This is from the church website. One Sunday each month, Latter-day Saints observe a fast day. On this day, we neither eat nor drink for 2 consecutive meals. If we were to eat our evening meal on Saturday, then we would not eat or drink until the evening meal on Sunday. All members who are physically able should fast. We should encourage our children to fast after they have been baptized, but we should never force them. I found that part especially interesting, and I wonder when they added it, because when I was a child in the church, that was not an option. It was definitely expected and enforced. So we can see that the church does in fact regulate food and drink. And some things are serious enough to keep you from the blessings of the temple. Now, while the church definitely lines up with this particular point on the bite model, I would say that it is not as extreme as other groups that I've seen. However, that certainly doesn't mean that dictating what the members eat and drink is not a serious thing. And it definitely doesn't mean that the LDS church is not a cult. Once again, I think it's really important to look at every facet of the church before making an informed decision. But we have looked at quite a few points on the bite model so far. So what do you think? Are we seeing a pattern? Do you think the LDS church could be a cult? As an ex-member, a current member, a never Mormon, or somebody who was part of a different religion, what are your thoughts on this? Huge thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. You guys are the best. Extra special thank you to Craig Call, Doug Davis, Tans, and the Exmo Candle Company for supporting at the Demon tier on my Patreon. And a big shout out to today's patron of the day, Maui. Maui is on the Heathen tier and has been a patron for 10 months. Thanks for your support, Maui, and I always love seeing your comments. If you would like to support the channel, my little black apostate heart would be so incredibly grateful. There are links to a bunch of different ways you can help out in the description. But if you can't, please leave a like and a comment. Those things help out so much too. Thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Just trust that I'll keep it locked in a cell. Never revealing no secrets you're keeping, these promises strong.